Hello and welcome. I am Dr. Lara May, a clinical pharmacist specializing in functional medicine, as well as a certified yoga teacher and Reiki master. I run a truly integrative health coaching practice encompassing functional medicine lab testing, yoga and meditation, and a sprinkling of Reiki energy medicine. Join me here on Light Body Radio to break through your health plateau and come into alignment with your natural vitality. Hello and welcome to Light Body Radio. I am your host, Dr. Lara May, and today we have with us a special guest, Hope Fitzgerald. Since 2010, Hope has been passionately sharing the Infinity Wave, a 10th dimensional energy tool revealed to her in a series of visions to accelerate personal and global spiritual evolution and increase joy and freedom even during tumultuous times, which I think is so appropriate for these times. Her recent best-selling book, The Infinity Wave, Mastering the Art of Love, Compassion, and Flow, describes the wave's astounding arrival and the ensuing lessons it brought. She conducted workshops on this powerful energy, appeared on multiple global platforms, and thanks to the wave's influence, has developed into a channel for a wide range of etheric masters. As a dedicated spiritual guide for decades, Hope uses intuitive dowsing to empower clients with rapid life insight and transformations. Additionally, she serves as an energy healer, a certified neurofeedback practitioner, and a death doula, integrating sound, Reiki, and essential oils into her work. Hope also leads groups annually to potent sites around the world to teach the art of communicating with landscapes, believing that when the powerhouse of the human heart interacts with a highly charged site, an alchemy occurs that can create a profound shift in consciousness. In addition, Hope collaborates with Emmy Award-winning composer Gary Malkin on You Awake, Mastering the Art of Change and Graceful Passages from Grief to Gratitude, which are workshops geared to provide shifts in perspective and how to navigate change and loss in chaotic times. You do a lot, and it seems like really amazing work. So I just want to thank you for being here first off, and thank you for all the amazing work and energy you're putting out into the world. And I do want to start with hearing about your story and how this all unfolded for you. I'll let you decide how to describe all these amazing things that you do and how they came to fruition.
Well, thank you so much, Lara, because any opportunity I have to share the good news about the Infinity Wave, I'm very grateful for. Well, typically I start by talking about how it came in and how it changed my life, because it's helpful for anybody who might be sort of on the precipice of a sea change in their lives, and they may not even realize it. But if they know someone has gone before them and gone through a sea change too, it gives a little more confidence that this too shall pass. You will be okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I share the story. Until 2010, I basically was a person who had a private spiritual life and a public, less obvious spiritual life, a regular life. And so these two tracks ran alongside one another. I have always, since I was a kid, I was always spiritually inclined. And I learned meditation when I was in high school. I just dove in as soon as I possibly could. And this led me to many places. It led me to hands-on healing. It led me to different philosophies, different religions. And it led me to a place called Findhorn in northern Scotland, which was a spiritual community. And what a place that was. I haven't been back in many years, but it definitely had sort of a cork popping experience on me. Mm-hmm. It had an effect on me. So anyway, I just carried on with my life, learning all kinds of spiritual techniques and practices and this and that. And then in 2010, I had a very difficult year, personally, very, very challenging, very upsetting. And pretty much by September, I was on zero in my tank, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. So fortunately, I was able to go to back-to-back sound healing workshops out in the Pacific Northwest with Tom Kenyon. And during those many days of transformative work, I would go in every day with a scrub brush in my hand to clean out my inner bowl. That's the only language I had for it. I was just on a mission to scrub that thing down and really remove all story. So every practice was one more layer gone. And finally, by the end, I felt so amazing. I just had one lingering question for the very last practice. And that was why? Why did I need, the experience of that former year what was that for? And why did it have to be so dramatic? I can pick things up much more subtly. Like, why did it have to be a hammer on my head? Anyway, I got the answer in that last practice. And I was so grateful for the eye-opening answer that it was, that in my mind, I went prostrate on the floor, and out of me sprang these two phrases: I am a willing vessel, do with me what you will. That was not from my mind. That was from my soul, from the deepest part of my being. It was a surrendering, right, to source. Well, I came home and I was delightfully empty for 3 days. It was so free. It was fantastic. And then I was walking across my living room. I had a friend over. I was telling her about my experience with Tom. And I was stopped short in the middle of my living room floor because in front of me was a giant wave. About, 10, 20 feet high. It was huge. And it was moving towards me. And there was a kind of byline with this. And it said, paraphrasing, this wave represents a push of evolution that is coming to the planet. It's going to be anchoring in at the end of 2011. If you choose to resist this wave, things will go worse for you than if you learn to swim it or surf it. And then the wave turned on its side and became the kind of a big letter C, that you'd expect a surfer to come through the barrel.
Mm-hmm.
And with that one, the byline was, leave all your learning on the shore. Like the physics of a wave is it pulls away from the shoreline and deepens into the seabed to create the energy to create the crest of the wave. So I was being told, leave all your learning on that shore. The wave comes away from the shore, and then deepen into the wisdom of the earth, the wisdom keepers of the earth for your knowledge. And then that curling wave didn't just drop down into the ocean, but it curved around to become a standing figure eight of flowing water. And there was no byline with that. And it hung out in front of my forehead about 18 inches. And it was about 18 inches in size. So for the next 3 days, I walked around with this kind of blurry awareness of this figure eight dancing in front of me. And finally, I got a little tired of it, honestly. And I sat down with my dowsing rods. I had been dowsing for 15 years at that point. And I just asked some questions and started to figure out what the heck this was. And in a nutshell, over the course of several dowsing sessions, I was told that this represents this 10th dimensional, very high frequency of love and compassion. And it's embodied in the water itself. So it was meant to help us with the times that were ahead, the rocky times that would be ahead. And of course, in 2010, we had no idea what that would be. We know what they are now, at least how far we've come this, in the last 4 or 5 years. We're aware of those times. But back in 2010, no, there wasn't a hint of that. So anyway, then I was further told I needed to create workshops about this and start teaching, which is about the last thing in the world I wanted to do. I am in my regular life, I was a performer, I was a director, producer, teacher, all kinds of things. But when it came to teaching spiritual things, I always felt like a student and ill-equipped and did not want to get up in front of a room and represent myself as any kind of deliverer of information. But I was told in no uncertain terms that I had already declared myself a willing vessel to spirit, and that I really had no room to say no. So then I leapt off the cliff. And I want to tell people that it is in leaping off the cliff that all the bounty comes. Craig Hamilton had a quote years ago. He says, everybody wants to be enlightened, but nobody wants to change. And I love that quote because I didn't realize until I was being asked to leap that I didn't realize that I had been kind of hanging on to my 3D reality. No matter how many books I had, no matter how many experiences before this, nothing's the same as completely surrendering to being guided. And that's what I mean by leaping off the cliff. And you just can't know that the universe is going to catch you until you leap.
Mm-hmm.
So then I did that and kept doing that and really still do that. And I was guided. I started to channel, which I never thought I never even liked channeling. And all of a sudden I became a channel. These practices came in time for me to give my first workshop. And then the same thing happened with the second and the third. And when I looked back after the 9 practices, I realized that they were a step-by-step spiritual evolutionary blueprint. If you did these 9 practices in a row, giving them plenty of time to settle in and integrate, you would move up the spiral of your own spiritual evolution. And that's what I ended up seeing as a result of the workshops that we did in the beginning. So that just kept happening, and all kinds of things happened as a result of that. But that is how the infinity wave came in. And the people who started using it and practicing it, the people in the workshops, those first 12 people, experienced dramatic changes in their lives. And it wasn't just the love, because I was standing back with my arms crossed, very doubting, I have to say. Is this a real thing? I got to see, it can't just be a lovey-dovey weekend. It's got to last. It's got to have legs. And it did. But, I needed more time to fully believe this and believe that I was in this role, because this was not something I expected at all. This is not something I ever dreamed that a role I'd be in. But they had the foot in my back and they were pushing me. And they said, look, you've had a lifetime of learning. Now it's time to get out there. So that's how it all came in. And then that's how I learned about what the wave was. I learned right alongside everybody that I was so-called teaching. And I was amazed at the evolutionary journey that I went on as a result.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how it came in. And how the infinity wave and this idea that in a simple geometry, but it's a geometry that not only has its own magical properties. Certainly, the infinity or the figure eight has been used in healing and qigong and all kinds of things for centuries, if not thousands of years. It's the combination of the geometry and the water that makes it just a little different, a little more elevated than just the geometry alone. And the fact that it is a representation of an energy. This is how we can imagine it. This is a way we can pull it in and use it. But the energy itself, the frequency itself is amorphous. It's huge.
Right.
It's a way to, with our minds and our consciousnesses, to use it.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, then it's a visualization in terms of how sort of you invoke it, activate it, bring it in. It's a visualization and an intention practice. And then whatever, comes to fruition from that is what unfolds for a very simplified way to start.
Yes. And lots of people say to me, oh, I can't visualize. I must not be doing it because I can't visualize it. No, that's not the case. Some people are great visualizers, and that's awesome. It's really just inviting it to dance with you. You look at the figure eight of flowing water, and you say, okay, I'm inviting you to dance in my life. And I'm going to now try to imagine that, let's say I'm running it from my heart to yours. Even if you can't visualize it, you can start to feel it.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes people can't feel it right away. And they, but it will kick in. In fact, my collaborator, Gary, couldn't feel it for the longest time and felt like he wasn't doing it right. Well, there's no right or wrong way to do this. Okay. It's incorruptible. So he finally did have a very big experience with it when he was having an emotional crescendo, let's call it. And he was about to perform, and it was not the crescendo in the right direction for performing. Let's put it that way. And I said, okay, I'm going to stand opposite you here, and I'm going to wave you. And about 10 seconds in, his eyes popped open, and we kept going. But afterwards, he said, oh my God, I finally get it. Because his emotional state changed on a dime to a different one, a much more positive one, and a one that would support him through his performance. Mm-hmm. He went from high on anxiety to peace, calm, and excitement.
Yeah, I feel like a lot. So 2 things. The first is that because I teach some intuitive methods as well, I teach Reiki, and then I also teach just, basic, like an intuition 101 type of course where it's like just getting people to that place to start opening up and playing with their intuition and getting them used to even the possibility that they are intuitive. And we're all intuitive. It's just a matter of how much have we been trained out of it, and how willing and open are we going to be to let ourselves step back in to those roles, the connection, the flow. And so I totally agree with you. Everyone can visualize. If I say pink elephant, a pink elephant pops into everyone's head. That's visualization. That's how easy it is. We just tell ourselves, I'm bad at it, I'm not good at it. And it can be as simple as as showing someone a picture of what you like. If they're very convinced that they're very not good at it, then show them a picture and have them focus on it with their eyes open, because even that is an ancient form of meditation that, you know, Buddhists and, like you said, many healing traditions have used for centuries, because there is that power in that focus and in the intention of, I'm going to tune in to the frequency of this visual. So in your case, it's the wave. It could be a different symbol or a different sacred geometry. But yes, and then the second piece of that relative to this story you just told about Gary is, as I think when we get to these places of anxiety, exhaustion, it's almost like we're at our wits' end, where we are at that place where we're ready to just surrender. We could also call it give up, but really it's a surrender. And when we're there and where we're open to then receive and say, okay, you know, I'm done fighting. I'm going to just be open to whatever comes. And then that's really where the magic happens. And we allow, it's like that little mustard seed, you know, that they talk about. And we allow sort of the light and the whatever greater can come through, we allow it in. And then it's usually greater than we could ever imagine.
Well, I think there's a lot to what you say. I will say that this goes a little bit beyond that, because it doesn't have to do with readiness of anybody. It really. I'll give you another example. My friend had need of very delicate surgery in her neck. She'd had a car accident. And so we needed to go to LA to this particular surgeon who could do bone, muscle, and nerve. Now, you can imagine that would be a very nerve-wracking kind of situation, because any slip of the knife could make you paralyzed, you know. So my friend went ahead and studied hypnosis before surgery to get herself in the best position that she could. And she had, one of the things that they told her to do was to write down on a piece of paper what you wanted the anesthesiologist to say as you went under and came out. So you're programming your subconscious mind for better outcomes, right? So she had done that and put it on a beautiful piece of paper. And we were waiting, had gone through the whole process. We were just waiting for the anesthesiologist, waiting and waiting and waiting outside the surgical room. She's got her gown on, her cap, the whole 9 yards. Finally, in comes this woman. And she's got this clipboard clutched in her arm. She's also wearing a very unusual surgical cap. It looked like a little mini pizza hat. It was kind of puffed out and had little flecks on it. It was very, never saw anything like it. Anyway, she stands opposite me at the end of the bed and never looks at either one of us, and is just nose buried in her clipboard and starts spouting all this medicalese, what we're going to do today. We're going to work on this, blah, 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 you know, and it just, she was like a robot. I had no human touch at all. And I could see from my friend's face that she was getting very worried, because to her, having the anesthesiologist say, you know, what she'd written on the paper was very important. And this woman did not look receptive to that. So in noticing my friend's worried face, now a year before, I would have probably said, you know, my friend's really nervous, doctor, would you mind? You know, I would have done something like that to try to help her connect or something. But I'd just been doing a year of the wave and teaching the wave, and I'd been evolving. So at this point, I just looked at this and I thought, I don't like this picture. I want a different one. And out of my mouth came the words, I like your hat, but without any inflection, just flat like that. I like your hat. But what happened was that out of my solar plexus, there was this pop. Like, it was physical. I felt this pop, and and all I can say is that a wave bomb hit this woman. Her head pops up, swivels around, looks at my friend, says, hey, babe, how are you doing? I'm going to take such good care of you. Oh, look at you. You got the little, oh, it looks like a recipe. It's so beautiful. I love to say things like this before you go on. I'm like, she changed in a nanosecond she did a 180. And both my friend and I were gobsmacked, as they say in England.
Mm-hmm.
Our mouths fell open, our eyeballs expanded. I like could not believe this sudden shift. And so, 2 days later, and my friend was finally out of surgery and out of her anesthesia and all that stuff, she said to me, "Hey, what about that anesthesiologist? I was about ready to get another one because she was just like an iceberg." And I said, "Oh, I'm so glad you noticed what happened." She said, "Yeah, what did happen?" And I said, "Well, this wave popped out of my solar plexus, like a punch. And she got flooded, you know? And what I love about this story is that it taught me the power of the wave, because until that point it was being used mostly for gentle, peaceful releasing of this and that, and gently opening the field to shift reality, but nothing so dramatic as this. And the other thing it taught me was that my little human brain could have an intention of what I wanted the picture to look like. But the wave knew better. The wave gave exactly what that doctor needed. And who knows what the backstory was, how sleepless she was. Maybe she just lost a patient. Maybe her kids were sick. We don't know. But for whatever reason, she was not in her love and compassionate state, right?
Right.
So when she got flooded with it, her dry sponge filled up so that she could rise to her highest and best. My intentions would have been too small for what happened. So that's why I say the readiness, I don't know. We use it to quiet babies on airplanes. We use it to break up fights down the street. We use it for opening traffic. We use it for a million things in daily life. And that's what I call the daily wave. And there are 1,000,001 uses, so I don't even know them all. But then we have the practices that came in those original workshops that are a step-by-step blueprint for a spiritual leap in evolution. And so those are that's what I call the deeper dive. Not everybody is ready for that, but some people are, and they're hungry. So the wave basically comes in to shift reality. When we realize that all reality, no matter how solid it looks, is mutable. It's all moving. It's all malleable. We tend to forget that. The wave reminds us of that fact. And that if we apply its love and compassionate waters on any situation, that situation is going to rise out of 3D. We don't know how far, but it's going to break through the ceiling of 3D and have many more opportunities, many more possibilities. Does that make sense?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yes, I am resonating very deeply with what you're saying. That's why I'm not interrupting. So, okay. Where is your book like the natural place to start, or where do you suggest sort of how people can, because the other question I have is, I think, and this is why in our human minds, sort of, I think too, that people are afraid, like you said at the very beginning, to truly surrender and step into these intuitive callings and these soul and spiritual callings that we have, because I think we're afraid of that jolting, severe experience of, like, you hear a lot, at least you used to, about these spiritual awakenings that happening and how jarring and disruptive they are. And I think that's what people are afraid, honestly, just afraid of, because, maybe there are pieces of their life they're happy with now that, that,
Yeah,
like,
right.
yes, they're open to, to being spiritually aligned and awakened and more of a love and light, being and vehicle, but maybe not so much on some other things shifting. So
Oh,
how have
I
you
know.
seen this unfold?
Absolutely. Like, I'm fine with this part changing, but I want this to stay the same. Yeah.
Right.
Unfortunately, it doesn't often work that way. When
Yes.
because you can't, it's like spirituality light, okay. And that's, I would say, what my life was until this dramatic, invitation or direction from the wave. I would say that I was very intuitive, and I agree with you. We all are intuitive. And I had given it a lot of my time and a lot of my 10,000 hours, I had put into that. But I think, and it's not for everybody, it's not for everybody that they have such a deep calling to
Hmm.
move from believing to knowing. As Buddha said, moving from the mind to the heart is the longest journey you'll take, right? And that means being willing to release the the hold that we have on certain beliefs. It's only when you, or even all beliefs, it's only when you toss that salad in the air completely, you see what you want to actually put in your salad bowl. And you kind of
Hmm.
have to be willing to let it all go, because look, we've had a lot of revelations over the last 5 years of things we believed in, of things we thought were
Hmm.
true and no longer seem to be true. And so it's very
Oh, yeah.
unsettling, it's very destabilizing. And even though there's been a lot of tragedy, it's also been an opportunity, because only when the rug, look, when things are good, what's the impetus to change? Nothing. It's when the rug gets pulled out that the salad goes in the air, that then we start asking questions. What is important to me? What do I believe is real? Can I even say anything is real? What can I say is real? You know, I had to do this. Not everybody has that calling, but for those who
Hmm.
do, I recommend this as a way to move into that, in with as much love and compassion for yourself as possible. And you can always set it up. You can always say, listen, I really want to pursue this. I want to grow in my spiritual uh, endeavors. I want to become more into that knowing state. But can you make it a little gentle on me?
Right.
you know,
Yeah. And that's,
I mean, you can do that, and the wave is useful for that. Sometimes I'm asked, how do I, do I get rid of these old stories? Like, I went to Tom Kenyon and I scrubbed my bowl like crazy, and I went through an incredible initiation. I didn't know it was on the other end, but I knew I just wanted to start fresh. I wanted a clean slate. And that was a driving force in me. Not everybody has that. So if you just want to chip away at it, great, chip away at it. Use the wave to help you. Because when we release things in love and compassion, we usually also release them in gratitude for the roles they have played in our lives. When we do it with a hammer, out, out, I just want you out of here, that can sometimes be incomplete. But I found
hmm
that using the wave, the love and compassion in the wave, tends to do the job much more cleanly and completely and kindly. So it's a wonderful tool for people who are beginning on this path, and for people who are well along the trail. I have I have listeners, viewers, followers, whatever, in both camps. And that's why I wrote the book. So, yes, to answer your question, I do recommend the book, because It tells the story of how it came in a little more completely than I told it here, but it also gives a context for some of my languaging and why the things that I can hang on to as beliefs. Then there aren't that many. And then it gives some examples about how to use the daily wave. And it's also, I hope, and what I've heard, is that it's an inspiration to step off the cliff as much as you possibly can, and that the payoffs are there. And for anybody who wants to improve their intuition, that's what it's here for. It's here to help us go direct. You don't have to go through a person. You can have teachers, that's fine, but ultimately it's you and the divine, you and source, you and the earth. And it is all of our divine blueprints to have those deep conversations, communions with those realms. One of the things that was taught to me through this process, when I became a channeler, when I didn't even believe in channeling, and all of a sudden I'm channeling, and now I channel a whole like revolving door of beings every Monday. They come in, whoever comes in. It's crazy. But anyway, I, you know, one of the things that I was taught along this path, the geometry of the figure eight is as above, so below, right? That's we've heard that. That's ancient. But what we don't get taught usually is that the below is not us on the surface of the planet. The below is the planet. So if you picture figure eight and you put the earth in the lower circle and you put the heavens, or for lack of a better word, in the upper circle, we're in the middle, which is the 0 point, the nexus, the peduncle. We're the ones with equal access to the above and below that are, in my opinion, equally spiritual. We're the ones who can have communion and get direction from both realms. They can't do anything. We are the enactors. We're here to serve both of these realms. We listen to the earth. We listen to the whisperings that come to us from the natural world. We listen to the whisperings that come to us from our guide teams or the universe or the angels or whatever it is you believe in. We're the ones that can take action based on those whisperings and those directions. They can't do it. We can. So it's a little different way of thinking, as above, so below. We're really in this beautiful positioning here.
I love that. Yeah. I mean, because it really reinforces the power of our choice, the power of our intention, the power of our thoughts. And I think because especially right now, I think so many of us with, like you said, all of the disillusion that's happened over the last 5 years specifically, maybe feeling a little powerless and a little more hopeless and a little more disconnected, unfortunately. So if you're one of those people out there and you haven't found your path yet, or that whatever that is that brings you back to that feeling of connection, I really invite you to check out the book, check out Hope's work. To me, it just resonates. And I'm, like I said before, I'm hearing, as Carolyn Mace likes to say, the truth with a capital T, the big truth in what you're saying. So I do want to ask you about the dowsing, because I'm a muscle tester, and that is one of the methods that I use to teach when I'm introducing people to their intuition, because I feel like it's a great reinforcement tool at the very beginning. So I would love to hear how you use your dowsing or integrate it into your work and what that looks like for you.
Oh, sure. Well, I would never have been able, first of all, to interpret what the wave was or any of this without my dowsing. And I'm so, so grateful I learned it. Initially, I learned it through being a feng shui designer. Uh, just I wouldn't call myself an expert in feng shui, but I have used it in redoing both my and other people's homes. It's commonly used in feng shui as a way to determine best colors, best orientation, a lot of things. And you can do a lot of math or you can dowse. So I like to dowse. I use a variety of dowsing tools. I use pendulums for clearing energy and for healing work. They're amazing. And there are many, many different dowsing tools. I finally found out after I'd been dowsing for like 17 years, oh, there's an American Society of Dowsers and they have an annual conference. What? I was all by myself in my own little silo. And then I went to the dowsing conference and I met all these wonderful people. It was so exciting. And I saw all these tools that I never even dreamed of. It was like going to Hogwarts. That was amazing. Anyway, I use dowsing rods. They're called L rods because they're shaped like an L. And I started using them initially for most auspicious dates and times for things. But over the years, I then asked riskier questions. And I learned a way of asking that sort of takes us outside of yes and no. So what I've developed over time is, along with my increased intuition, which has now turned into clairvoyance, clairaudience, I start to dowse with somebody and it's like a little opening happens in my head. And I start to hear words, I start to see images. And so we follow the rods. I ask the questions for the client, but then I get these messages. And so that directs us into the very heart of the problem extremely quickly. That's why I love it so much. I offer half-hour sessions because we can get so much done in half an hour. And not only is it a question of getting the answers through the dowsing rods, but it's also the story fills in through these messages that I get. And the rods confirm them. I don't have to have the rods probably, but I like them because A, the client can see what's happening for themselves, and B, it's confirmation in case I do go off track, and I just, sometimes I will ask a question and I'll have a feeling like that I think I know the answer and the rods will give something completely different. So for me, I'm just happy to have them as my handy dandy little friends in terms of this work.
Yeah.
I also
I think it's good for the human brain again. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I also use them when I'm taking groups on trips to determine where I should go, when I should go, and all the details. Like I have a trip coming up to Mount Shasta in August, and every aspect of that trip and all my previous trips around the world have all been dowsed. When I dowse for the dates for something and I follow through on that, we have spectacular weather. Everything goes smoothly. I think one time there was one bag that went missing, and that's because that woman did not do what was dowsed for her to do. She stepped outside and did what she wanted to do. As a result, she lost her bag. But other than that, I mean, I've had now, I don't know how many trips, 10, 11 trips to, Easter Island, like far away, difficult to navigate trips, and never had a problem. So it's a question of you're working hand in hand with the universe, and dowsing is a way to do that. I highly recommend it as a way to develop a person's intuition. You start a communication with the beyond, and you don't have to know who it is you're talking to up front. And you just start leaning in, ask little questions that don't have any risk. When should I go to the grocery store? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and just do what
Yeah.
is recommended, then that's a signal. Oh, she's listening or he's listening. Okay, well, let's try again. You just grow the conversation, grow the relationship over time.
Yes.
Oh, one more thing. So you can also use
Yeah.
your dowsing to communicate with nature. I teach
Mm.
people how to communicate with trees, rocks, rivers, etc., etc. It's not hard. If you use the wave before you communicate with those things, it usually goes better, because now you've sent the thing love and compassion. You ask permission to talk to it, see if it wants to talk to you, and then you carry on a conversation. It's fantastic. So there are lots and lots of uses for dowsing, and those are just some.
Yes. It's a tool I teach also, so it's very, very helpful. And what I was going to say before is that I think, especially at the beginning stages, it helps our human brain get that confirmation that it needs to start building that intuitive trust. And so I definitely encourage it. So I want to hear about where people can find out about your workshops, where they can find your book, all the good things.
Okay. Well, my website is spreadinfinitehope.com. And you can come there and sign up, and you'll get my weekly blog, and you'll have an announcement about the Monday calls. There is a lot that I offer for free. Some things are paid for, but there's a lot for free, including the 4 years of channeled meditations since the lockdown started. I have a meditation library. I have a blog library, so you can see all my writing, well, a lot of writing and a lot of meditations. People tend to listen to the meditations, a different one every day. And some of them are infinity wave meditations, but we've now been taught by a group of different groups that come in and tutor us. So over the years, those groups have changed. We've graduated and moved on to different groups. It's been fascinating. Anyway, the book can be found on any platform, Goodreads, Amazon, etc. And it's called The Infinity Wave: Mastering the Art of Love, Compassion, and Flow. It's also in Kindle form. However, I recommend the physical book because people take it and earmark it and underline and do all that kind of thing. And it's a skinny book. I spent a long time writing it because I was writing it for an audience of newbies, and also experienced people. So that's quite a wide breadth. And, it took a while. Anyway, so that's the book. Then the other place people can find me, and of course I'm on Facebook and Instagram and all of that, Spread Infinite Hope. But the other place you can find me is Gary and my workshop page, which is you-awake.com. And that's where we have our workshops. One is called You Awake, Mastering the Art of Change, which really was born as a result of the frozen state that lots of people still are in post the lockdown stuff. And also anybody who's just feeling a little stuck for whatever reason. And then the second workshop that we're offering is called Graceful Passages, based on Gary's seminal work of the same name, which is incredible. It's just, everybody should just go and download Graceful Passages from any streaming platform. It is it's really about grief literacy. So what that means is helping people through transitions of all kinds, which usually involves leaving something behind. And whether this is your life, or you're moving from even high school to college, or out of a marriage, or out of a town, or out of a family, whatever it is, these transitions can be very challenging. And this Graceful Passages is a support. Both of our workshops have 4-step programs, 4-step kind of processes that you end up taking away with you and you can use whenever you need them in your life. So we have those. I have one coming up, and we do them online and in person. So that's you-awake.com.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. you-awake.com, spreadinfinitehope.com. And thank you so much for your time and your wisdom. And again, the work and energy you're putting out into the world. I love it. I definitely resonate with it. And I encourage anyone out there, if you're curious, please start exploring, start playing around. Intuition is fun. That connection that you build with source and nature and yourself, and then, what unfolds in the world around you is so magical and so powerful. It's hard to even really put into words until you've experienced it. So I definitely encourage, just exploring and see what comes up for you, because the universe will bring you exactly what you're meant to, have and experience. So thank you again, Hope. I really appreciate you.
Thank you, Lara. It really was fun talking to you.
All right, everyone, make sure that you head on over to drlaramay.com for all of the show notes, to find these links and to find where all of the resources of these episodes live. And if you liked this episode, please like, comment, follow, and we will catch you on the next episode. Thanks, everybody. Bye.